Ladies and gentlemen, we are now gathered to induct the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. In many ways, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame is a tribute to backyard wrestling. Be prepared, I might add, ladies and gentlemen, as this very well may be a long tribute to our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, as there is a lot of stuff in backyard wrestling that he has been a part of since 2010 and even before that. You might say that our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, he liked pain, and it would be nothing at all if he didn't have that pain. He showed us a world that we didn't understand, but we now know that we can't get enough of. Trust me, I've got a plan. When the lights go on, was the definition of our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. When he went out there in company after company in the state of Alabama, giving his body for this great sport that we love. And I'd also like to point out a shirt which I have been wearing that also explains why we have a tribute to our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame in supporting backyard wrestling. He did it all really for this love of this sport. Whether it was the pain and dealing with all the light tubes, whether it was the golf clubs he took, the wood, all the other appliances and everything else you saw him do in the world of HCW, we'll get to that, which led him into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. His destiny, you might say, even though that nearly 12 years ago, he thought he was about to have given it all up for good. He had once said something after his final match back in 2012, which I'd like to bring up a quote from our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, and the fact that true backyard wrestlers don't do it because they want to get into WWE or TNA. Throw in AEW now because it is 11 plus years later. They do it because they love the sport, and that's exactly why our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame is exactly those things. A true definition of backyard wrestling, and all wrestling matters. And when we look back in his career, he did that and some by winning not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 backyard wrestling world heavyweight championships. And maybe one of his biggest roles as the founder of HCW in 2010 in Northeast Alabama. Our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame made it not so much by that, or not so much by this, or not so much by anything else we'll talk about, but he made it because his opponents had to get ready for that smackdown. They had to get ready for that pain. And they certainly didn't want to turn his back on him because he did it to a who's who of people. Famously, though, his last words would be, "I'll be back," in 2012. Well, ladies and gentlemen, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame came back and some with the Alliance Wrestling League, as they have made quite a splash over the past 8 months and are getting ready for their first ever indoor show in a pro wrestling ring called Gold Rush this Saturday. We'll wind up talking about that in a little while. But when we go back to the early days of our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, 35,890 people, as a matter of fact, have viewed 117 videos of HCW starting from June the 20th, 2010 to December 27th, 2012. And in that 2.5 year span, it played roles in such important companies in the backyard wrestling scene in Alabama, such as ZTW, AWE, GCW. That was the most important GCW before the current GCW we all know about now. And a company I referenced just a few minutes ago called the AWL. From the wars with Clay Pierce, Luke Miller, can never forget about that. Where we saw golf clubs, as I pointed out, woods, ladders, and it even included, you might want to say, a baby ADT, and maybe even an adolescent CJ Black long before he was a good guy, and maybe even had his own news update. That's how important our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame is. Because today, some of our biggest stars in the world of backyard wrestling and beyond, like ADT, like the good guy CJ Black, got their start in part to our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Also, other names that were important in this jersey, or actually important in this career of our newest member of the Hall of Fame. He might be wearing an Auburn jersey or shirt or two, but we'll get to that also in the tribute, you might want to say, to him in backyard wrestling. But some other names that came to mind: Brandon Bonds. How about that name? Augie Lancaster. And most importantly, well, that's what we do here on Sportswire. Not so fast, my friend, to quote Lee Corso. But also a name that's also extremely important and vital to the current state of AWL that our man had legendary wars with and was a part of back in those days in the last decade, Skylar Felton. Our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame went up and down, you might want to say yards or on mats or ground, whatever surface it was, to go deal with those individuals, to give us what we all want as true wrestling fans and being a part of all wrestling matters. But also, when we think about our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, we also think about some of the stuff he talked about in his YouTube channels. Of course, as I have to bring it because he's wearing the shirt, he wants me to bring it up. He has been a lifelong Auburn Tigers fan. And of course, in the heyday of his YouTube channel was when the days we saw some guy named Cam Newton lead Auburn to heights it hadn't seen in over 2 decades. And there was tribute after tribute by our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame about those Auburn Tigers. We also got to see many tributes to some of his own favorite wrestling stars, like The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin. No, and not that other guy we might talk about or may not talk about later on in the show, or others, such as RVD, but also most notably, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame had a path similar to another hardcore icon, Bob Holly, spark plug, but also most notably Hardcore Holly from Alabama, who certainly was one of the all-time greatest hardcore wrestlers in the WWF at the time, Attitude Era. In many ways, our newest member of the sport was our own version of Hardcore Holly. When I think about the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame and the many backyard wrestlers and others that have graced our journey and have been a part of our history, honoring all wrestling that matters, I could not think of a better person to A, be the first member of our 6th class, but also be our first general manager to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. There could have been any other person we would have chosen, any other person people would have asked us to. But when I think about the journey, as he stated in his final words, true backyard wrestling is for those that do it for the love of this sport. That's all our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame has done. He has done it for nearly 15 years by giving his body, but giving back to the sport more than it's given him. And he's doing that now currently. It may be his most important role to date as the general manager of the Alliance Wrestling League, whereas he has helped guide a company that is now going to be in a professional wrestling ring, that has had professional wrestlers work for their company, and has had some of the brightest and biggest up-and-coming wrestlers that have graced their company. And we might even talk about some current things and some future things that the Alliance Wrestling League is working on, all in part to the leadership of our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Now, I certainly won't bring up the fact that he's been a referee of late, because while we certainly love our soon-to-be newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, with all due respect, I don't think we're inducting him because of his most recent referee work, but we'll certainly talk about that in a little while. I can go on and on and on about our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. I can even see he's brought his cat out here for us. He's starting to sweat. He wants to take his hat off. He wants to kind of get to it, and I will. But, ladies and gentlemen, I will go on and on and on about our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. But before I do that, I do want to officially congratulate our 51st member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our first member of our 6th class, and also the first general manager. And I couldn't be more prouder to induct this man. I have gotten the chance to know him for the past year. He has always represented himself in this great sport with class, dignity, and honor. And I think in many ways the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame represents those things. As I've continued to state, as your master of ceremonies, who has done this over and over again for a who's who of people, I truly believe, just like Major League Baseball has a Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, New York, football, and he has a, after all, the Pro Football Hall of Fame takes place in Canton, Ohio. Basketball has theirs in Springfield, Massachusetts, and hockey has theirs in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. All wrestling that matters now officially has a Hall of Fame with Sportswire Radio. And I could not be more prouder, ladies and gentlemen, to officially induct, as I've stated already, the 51st member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our first member of our 6th class, and our first general manager to be inducted, the Alliance Wrestling League general manager and 5-time heavyweight champion of the world, Hillbilly Tilley. Now, Hillbilly Tilley, before I officially induct you and let you have the opportunity to speak, as many people have gotten over and over and over, and even including a man that works for the Alliance Wrestling League, Mr. ADT, he's also in our Hall of Fame. It's time for you to get that introduction everybody else has gotten, many of your peers, colleagues, and maybe even the good guy CJ Black has gotten, and certainly in maybe a small way, you're actually in part a part of his career and his early upbringing. So I'll let you talk about that and some in a little while. But now let's get right to it because everybody's waiting for it. Let's give you that introduction that you deserve, that we can officially call you a Sportswire Radio Hall of Famer. So with that, without further ado, here on the Sports Report, number one global sports show, the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, our 51st member, first member of our 6th class, and our first general manager, the general manager of the Alliance Wrestling League and 5-time backyard wrestling heavyweight champion of the world. His name is Hillbilly Tilley. My friend, congratulations. You're officially now in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame.
I really appreciate the honor. Great honor. I'm impressed with your pipes, man. Every time.
You know, I'm getting that a lot lately. I don't know why it is. You know, it's funny because we'll get to comments in a second. And there's a lot of people now that are all of a sudden, I don't want to call them imitators or imposters or any other term, but they're certainly now doing what I'm doing now. You know, some of them have been on the show, others have not. But there's one thing that they can't do is what we do each and every time, because I've been doing this for 5+ years, my friend, is these introductions. And actually, Omen Black had asked me about that. He said, oh, I was just listening to it, and I never asked you this before, but, how do your vocals keep up with it? And I said, well, kind of just hope and pray. Although, real quick before we get into your story again, once again, for those listening and watching on Sports by Radio, I did a show with the general manager actually for Coming Out Championship Wrestling in the UK. And as I was doing the intro, I clutched my chest and I'm like, uh-oh, my voice didn't go out. But actually, we did okay. And I haven't had that problem since. But yes, somebody compared me, maybe it was Omen Black, compared me to Mariah Carey doing this. So I was certainly, maybe the only time I get a Mariah Carey comparison. I would certainly much rather go out with Mariah Carey, but that's a different topic for a different time. But Hillbilly Tilley, it is an absolute honor, as I ask this time and time again, to the previous 50 members that have been inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, including a who's who of people, and such as ADT, who's certainly a colleague of yours, obviously Omen Black, Soldier GP I had mentioned, certainly Josh Fletcher of XCW, Josh Allen of TBW, even some guy James Taylor, the Nemesis, and RP Davis, Dean Allmark, Luke Leyland. We can go on and on and on. But Hillbilly Tilley, for those that are listening and watching on Sportswire Radio, where all wrestling matters, what does it mean to you now to officially be in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame?
It's a great honor. I really appreciate it. If you told me 10 years ago when I started, or now it's 14 years ago, like you said, about 15 years going on it. If you told me I'd be in the Hall of Fame one day, I told you it was crazy. I never expected this.
Well, I didn't appreciate creating the Hall of Fame. I got to be honest with you. About 3.5 months ago, that was what we did, and I think the reason I had created the Hall of Fame because I've been doing this for over 5 years, and I've interviewed literally like over 1,000 people in all the different things: wrestling, sports, college sports, athletics, news, and I had actually been asked, well, would you, create a Hall of Fame? And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And we've been doing it, and that's what it's about, giving people the recognition. And you were a part of it. You were really a part of true backyard wrestling. We think back to years ago. We think back to those early days, 2009, 10, 11, 12, in your heyday. We really wouldn't have backyard wrestling the way it is. We really wouldn't have this sport being all wrestling that matters if it wasn't for guys like you. If it wasn't for guys like Clay Pierce and, everybody else that went out there, and, Skylar Felton, certainly I have to mention him, and a who's who of other people. So really, I guess in part, it's because of you that we have a Hall of Fame and that backyard wrestling exists the way it is. And I think that it's kind of poetic that you are the first member of the 6th class and our first general manager, my friend.
All right. Well, I feel like I'm in a Nardwall interview, if you know who Nardwall is.
Yep.
The guy that interviews all the music guys, and usually when you started bringing up all my history, like the detail you went into, I forgot some of those things. Like, oh my god, this guy is a hell.
Well, you know what? I gotta be honest.
You ever consider being a detective?
I got to be honest, because I'm sure you're listening to this, like, how did he know all this stuff? But I actually feel like every time I do these, if we really want to legitimize the Hall of Fame, right? And people say different things. And like I said, there are people that are doing shows like this now, and God bless them. I think that the biggest form of flattery is when somebody does something like this on Sportswire. So I want to say, I hope that the likes of the Wolfpack Hour, C2K Talk, C2K Hour, the Zack Attack guy, Skulls Talks, and Tyler Ark, all these people, I wish them to do as much as they could with their programs and hope that they, exceed what I've done. But I really feel that if you're going to really have a Hall of Fame, you have to do it like when I was growing up as a sports fan, and I would listen to, let's say, the speeches in the Baseball Hall of Fame or in the Football Hall of Fame, and, the person would get up there, or the person that's going to be inducted would go out there and talk about, what's led them into the Hall of Fame. And I feel like in a lot of ways, especially on the wrestling side, yes, we have a guy, Danny Burns, who played in the NCAA Final Four, biggest thrill of a lifetime to have him in our Hall of Fame and have endorsed us. Obviously, Luke Leyland, who fought in Dambe and in Nigeria, and, he's been one of my biggest champions today. I mean, there's other great people that are in the Hall of Fame. But I really think to do this properly and to really recognize, especially what you've done, my friend, in nearly 15 years, we had to try and give you a speech that was, hopefully as good as what you had hoped for.
I mean, it's more than I hoped for. I didn't expect all this. I mean, you really did. You're right. I've watched a lot of sports in my life, and I've watched a lot of Hall of Fame inductions, and like that's one thing they always do is they tell the personal stories. They don't just tell the stories about the career everyone knows. Everyone already knows why they're getting inducted into the Hall of Fame, but they tell them personal stories what really made that person great. And that's what you took your time, you went out of your way, and you really put a lot of time and effort into this, and you really I have to give you your props. Like, I mean, what you do here is like
it's about you, but the truth is, you said it before. Really, we didn't think you'd come back again last year. Was that true backyard wrestlers do it for the love of this sport? And in order for me to honor you tonight, we had to really pay respects to what you've done and what you've put your body through in order to be able to give us everything that we see out there, especially in AWL, and being responsible for all the great people that have come through this sport and being a part of all wrestling that matters. And I even flubbed on a word or two because I mentioned Jersey and I'm thinking the Auburn shirt on, but we certainly got through that. But, I think this was actually, I'm going to make you feel really maybe good, maybe nervous in between. But I guess we're losing Hillbilly Tilley, so he's having some technical difficulties out there. Maybe he's just, honored that we had the speech tonight. I don't know. But we hope that Hillbilly Tilley comes back on with us. But if you are out there on Sportswire Radio, I would hope that you give us a like and follow. We are on YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579. We are on Facebook at Sportswire Radio. We are on Tumblr, Twitch, and Twitter. We are at Twitter at Thomas Price 2017, Tumblr, and Twitch at Sportswire Radio. We are also on LinkedIn at Thomas Price, and I think we've got Mr. Tilley back on. Mr. Tilley, there you go. We lost you there, Mr. Tilley. We lost you. I hope you're all right now.
Yeah, well, like I was telling you when we have talked before, that the reason I'm Hillbilly Tilley, I didn't give myself that name. I started out as Alabama. I'm the Alabama Hillbilly Cody Tilley, so I live in a very rural area, and I don't have great connection. So
I'm going to do the.
I'm
going to be respectful of that, and I realize that you're in a certain location, so I'll definitely keep this to as short as possible and to give you the most, positive experience. But certainly, I will, for the audience, for those that are listening and watching, I'll get right to it. Hillbilly Tilley, I've done a lot of these in the past, as you stated. You've watched them, and you've watched ceremonies, and we have 50 members. You are number 51, and only if you insist, I would like to present you something that would kind of showcase that you're officially in the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. So for those that are listening and watching, and those that will eventually watch and listen, I would like to give you something on the air, only if you insist.
I insist on it. I'd be much appreciated to accept
it. Well, you're in luck, because for those that are listening and watching, on this date, March the 6th, 2024, we have officially recognized as our 51st member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the one and only Hillbilly Tilley. You've got my signature there. You've got my John Hancock. You've got all that there. And also our logo. And congratulations, my friend. We'll certainly send this to you after we're off the air. And I hope that you will enjoy it. And just want to thank you for all that you've done in this sport. And I want to, go the extra mile. And when we're off the air, I will also add you to our website. You can certainly keep that flag up as well. Don't tread on me, absolutely. But definitely we'll add your photo to our website as well. But wanted you to have this, and congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I'll have to get that printed and framed, man. I've never got an award like that. I really appreciate it.
Well, you deserve it, because really, what you did, laying the groundwork in some ways, some people would say, for the likes of ADT or, the likes of the good guy CJ Black. And obviously he called you out a couple years ago, and, he has certainly been talking about you a lot in the past. We'll certainly, I'm sure, come back to some of those things if you only insist or choose to. But obviously, you're a Hall of Famer. It's a great honor to have you. But let's talk about the current state of affairs, especially in the Alliance Wrestling, because it's a great time. As I stated in my speech, you're also getting into the Hall of Fame, not exactly for your referee skills, but for the fact as general manager, the Alliance Wrestling League has gone a long way in from where it was to where it is now and where it will be going, because you guys have a really cool event coming up here this Saturday called Gold Rush. You guys are going to be in a professional wrestling ring, and I want to talk to you about the event, what it means to you, and a little bit of what can we expect coming up here this Saturday on the Alliance Wrestling League YouTube channel.
Well, as you know, we're going to have a rumble, a 10-man rumble.
Yep.
And most of the participants have been announced, but there's going, as far as I haven't been announced, as I know, there's going to be 2 unexpected rumble entries. A surprise, like rumbles, like it always makes rumble.
Yep.
One of which, well, y'all already know him from our product, probably, maybe, I don't know. I haven't decided yet completely. I'm still deciding if I'm going to let who I'm going to let here in the rumble. But another person though that I ain't going to give no spoilers, but it's going to be someone outside of the AWL. And
yeah,
someone
you know what? I would say this, as I say it all the time, because I've been doing this for so many years. Don't spoil it, because somebody will say, well, you said something. So I want people to go and check the YouTube channel of the Alliance Wrestling League when Gold Rush airs to see who it might be. But, let me ask you, though, as a general manager, how difficult is it to kind of pick these 2 participants? I mean, you've obviously got so much experience in this great sport, and how difficult has that role been for you?
It's been very difficult. And like I said, I've decided on one. He's already in backyard wrestling. He's already pretty known. People know him. So I mean, I'm really excited about him being.
It's not you, right? It's not you, right?
I considered it. I'm still, people ask me, "Oh, you think you could be in it?" And I'm like, "Well, right now my job is already set. I'm the general manager. Maybe one day, I'm not gonna say never, but that brings to which, we can say maybe it might be someone from, people we work with, like REW. But if they would actually come down to Alabama, we went to Michigan. Now the ROEW's getting, that's what I'm going to bring up. They're going to get new management, I've heard. Maybe that management will still fulfill, bringing some of the roster members down here to face us. I'd love to see that.
Well, how does that make you feel that, we saw you guys go down there a few months ago. We saw what happened in the Jason Storm ADT match. We saw what happened with Jack Delta and AJ Morgan, who's our champion now. I mean, how do you feel about that situation? Do you think that ROEW will come down here? Is there a timetable? Obviously, ROEW would put out on their Instagram page that they're certainly, obviously considering their options on different things. We wish them very well. We hope that they can make whatever decision is best for their company. And we wish, and the fact that it's All Wrestling Matters on Sportswire Radio, that ROEW becomes bigger and stronger and better. And, we can maybe see them not only maybe have more great matches in their company, in their home arena, but maybe come out to Alabama. So how do you feel about the situation right now? Where do we stand with ROEW coming to Alabama?
Well, I was, from agreement when I sent, AJ Morgan and Christopher James and when the rest of the Black Flag Army up there to have matches, I had to agree. I got agreement with the current management at the time. I guess they're no longer in charge, but I was going to expect them towards, the end of this month or early next month. But I guess I don't know how that's going to work out. If I was under their own accords, just like. Yeah, I thought CJ Black and you was gonna have a match or something like that, but I never. CJ Black, I love CJ. Like you said, I think this. I'm gonna talk a little bit here. If CJ Black was to come to Alabama, I might step back in the ring with one more match.
Wait. Repeat that for me again.
Considering, he's one of, I think, what is it, about 6 people now, I think, that's called me out and wants me to wrestle them, but CJ Black, me and him have a long, long history, like you brought up.
Well, that goes back to since 2011. He had talked about you and he was unhappy with the way you ran things. He had basically spoiled it out there years ago that you were the man that owned HCW. He didn't like the way that you ran things, and he was unhappy as an adolescent, CJ Black. And, maybe he has valid points. Maybe he doesn't have valid points. I mean, so he's been calling you out really for now the better part of 13 years. I mean, that's got to, certainly, hit at you a little bit, no?
I mean, yeah. And there's a reason, people call you out, and I take it as, they're a fan. He's a fan. He's one of my biggest
Also,
fans.
are you saying that the current ROEW champion is a fan of yours?
At one time he was. I don't know if he is no longer, but he was a fan of me at that time. AWE, like you brought up, that
Yep.
was a company that came off HCW. I ran that, and here's a fact you might not know: his CJ Black was a part of that promotion, and he was a champion for that promotion.
He wrestled during those times back in 2011. He was here in Alabama, and he was certainly a big part of those formed companies that made up HCW, and you know him very well from years ago. So let me ask you that. I mean, he calls you out, but he might be the most vocal of people that have called you out.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take credit for ROEW being rebooted, but anyone can go to the YouTube channel and see what's the first video they put out is him calling me out, and
it's almost 2 years to the day, because I believe it was April 7th, 2022 that he called you out. It's March 6th, 2024. I mean,
oh yeah, and you're very correct. I remember when he called me out. I wasn't really studying it at the time. I got told about it. It's one of those things. I've always had people make videos about me and hate on me because they hate what they can't be.
Well, especially now because you're a Hall of Famer, and you said it in your final words after you wrestled your last match in 2012 that true backyard wrestlers do it for the love of this sport. Not to go to WWE, not to go to TNA at the time. AEW we could throw in for the current tense, but the facts are is that you were for the true backyard wrestlers and the true backyard wrestling fans.
Oh yeah, I bleed backyard wrestling, man. I'm a backyard wrestler. I'm not a pro wrestler, and I don't have any aspirations to ever be a professional wrestler. I'm all about this. I have a love for the sport, love for the passion. Like you've discussed many times, the backyard wrestlers have, because it's not something we get paid for, something that we put our bodies at risk, and it's something that you really just do purely out the love for it and the passion for wanting to do it. And I have a lot of respect for that, man, because there's a lot of people that's really taking a lot of years off their life and really just doing this sport that's out of entertainment. All they're getting is maybe a couple hundred views a video if they're lucky. I mean, that's real passion right there.
And you were certainly one of those people. I mean, obviously those HCW videos have gotten a total of about 36,000 views. So basically then, make a long story short, on CJ Black, the current ROEW champion, you have unfinished business with him, or obviously right now you're focused on your general manager duties in the Alliance Wrestling League?
I'm always going to be, as far as it goes right now, I'm concerned with my job and continuing growing the AWL, and look at it as everyone can see, we've grown tremendously in 6 months. We'll have a ring of our own soon. We're going to have our first live show this Saturday.
We're going to talk about that. Yep.
In a ring. I've actually went out and finally found us a referee and employed a new referee for the event.
Get to that as well. I'm going to come back to that because you've refereed the last 2 matches in the Alliance Wrestling League, so we'll certainly talk about that. So, I mean, you have a lot of, certainly busy duties, but, I mean, what do you think, though, with ROEW? I mean, obviously, I know you're obviously focused in AWL, but, I mean, you would think that they would become bigger and better with whatever they decide to do, right?
Yeah, right. Well, I like ROEW's product. I think it's one of the better shows in all the backyard wrestling. I think CJ Black is easily. I told him not too long ago, actually, after I saw him. I saw a little promo. I'm not going to discuss what promo, but I told him he was honestly probably the best shit talker in backyard wrestling.
And he was in he was wrestling in the IMF show. He was the opening match in a live crowd with, 300 people, whatever it was. And he wrestled a really good match. I mean, so maybe he's leaving the backyard wrestling scene in the dust.
Well, if he is, he is. Maybe this explains why ROEW has been sold or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. I was so happy for him when I told him, I remember in about 2017 that I've always kept up with backyard wrestling. I've never stopped. I've always watched it actively. And I used to watch, if you know of MEBW, when they were
Yes,
still.
yes, I do. Yes, it came up when Jack Delta was here the first time. Yep.
Right, yes, and I've already known Jack Delta for a long time, and and I'll say, big fan of Jack Delta, and I respect all he's done. He is what he has done in backyard wrestling is tremendous. Like he
I
has
agree with you
created,
on that. I agree
he
with
has
you on that.
done of him doing it all the traveling. I've always kept up with his career, and I'm a big fan of him. Have a lot of respect for Jack Delta. He's one of them people, I would definitely like to see come down and wrestle some matches for AWL, but I understand that, like we talked about, it ain't free. It's, and he put a lot of miles, I'm sure, on his vehicles. He put a lot of miles on his body.
Sure, sure. But basically, though, ROEW, regardless of whatever they decide to do in the future of their company, and obviously we wish them really well, and I'll get to comments in a second. But the bottom line is that they're still contractually obligated to come to Alabama. Is that correct?
Well, it's not, you know how it is. It's more of a word of mouth contract, and it was with the
Card
former,
subject to change. Yep, I got it. Card subject to change.
and it was
Okay.
with the former management.
Fair enough. Okay, I can respect that. I certainly hope that wrestling fans get to see the best talent. They get to see the best matches. And I think that AWL and ROEW have both of those things. And I wish ROEW all the best in whatever they decide to do in their company's future. So let me say hello to people. I want to say hello to the IMF, which just had CJ Black there on their card against C Money, another person you are kind of responsible for back in those early days in Alabama. And those guys are doing great things. How you doing, IMF, and how you doing to the company that you represent? Thank you for your support, and thank you for working with us here in Sportzwire Radio. I'm really looking forward to more AWL coverage after Gold Rush. I'm very excited about the show, and I hope that people check out the AWL channels on all these links right here that I've put in our description. So please make sure you support them. They're a part of All Wrestling Matters, and I had mentioned him kind of as a young ADT, a baby ADT, almost like when they used to mention like Young Rock, and it's kind of like he was a young ADT. I actually got a chance to watch some of that there, and he didn't look like the ADT I see now, though.
Oh no, it was this completely different ADT. I see these little videos on the Instagram a lot. It's like the glow up of wrestlers, the progression of their careers, how they change every year. And I was like, oh man, we need to do one for ADT because golly.
You know what? I was like, wow, he was really that small, huh? Now he's like, he's kind of as big as the guy that we used to call Brock Lesnar. So that's certainly here. And that new division championship is really, well, it's as big as maybe him, period. So great photo there. Always good to be with ADT, of course. He is in our Hall of Fame. So we have two AWL members in the Hall of Fame. So I'm happy about that. I'm going to get to some current events in a second. Also, my buddy Ethan Sorensen says congratulations to you. Yes, you absolutely deserve it because you really have been a definition of backyard wrestling. I know we spoke about this. You were like, nah, I don't know. I'm like, no, you definitely, for what you've done for this great sport and All Wrestling Matters and true backyard wrestlers and true backyard wrestling fans, you are definitely more than worthy. But speaking of things, you have here he is. He's the current ROEW champion. Hillbilly Tilley's in the Hall of Fame, and the 7-star superstar is not. Well, you can write a letter, but Hillbilly Tilley's here right now. Would you like to say anything to Hillbilly Tilley, Mr. Black? Obviously, we've seen you in the ring.
New fans show up.
What's that? Oh, I think I heard a shot there. Shot was fired.
I'm not taking a shot. I love CJ. I love his work. I think he's one of the best. I think he gets better than most people.
Oh, listen, I say it all the time. If I'm going to break the fourth wall, what he's done in terms of his ring ability is better than some guys I've seen that I've had on the platform that are pro wrestlers or independent wrestlers. I mean, what they do there, they do a great job in very much in chain wrestling. They're huge chain wrestlers there. They do a lot of great stuff with that. And I think that what ROEW is about, I think Jack Delta sums it up, quality over quantity. And they're a product that you get a chance to check them out. They're on YouTube and Instagram, ROEW Backyard Wrestling. So check them out. Their latest match is up from about 2 weeks ago, just about with CJ Black, C Money, and Jack Delta. And Mr. Black has now 2 wins over Mr. Delta, technically. So it's been a great run for him. JX he's beat. He's beat C Money in a live show at the IMF's King of the Center. He's got 2 wins over Jack Delta. So, and he also kicked out Jason Storm, a man you guys had problems with. So, I mean,
started as well.
And there you go. Want to see here, Tilley, my pay for Gold Rush better be good after making me face all these yarders. Ooh, tough one here. Tough one there. What do you want to say about our champion? Obviously, what I thought was interesting was if you haven't got a chance, go to the Alliance Wrestling League YouTube channel because we saw the Black Flag Army. It looks like they're all reunited. And we saw Morgan, ADT, and a man we haven't seen on TV in, I don't know, almost 2 months, right? And the war criminal Dylan Andrews, and he said he's also going to be in this 10-person Rumble, but he also is the new hardcore champion. And it looked like a hardcore championship. And, what do you make of that? And also, what do you make of the fact that we're going to see all of the Black Flag Army in this Rumble here this coming Saturday?
Well, I'll say this. I'm not going to deny anyone their opportunities into the Rumble, even though they are a group. As anyone has watched Rumbles before, I'm going to try to keep their entrance separate, but there's only the first two entrants, the only ones that's not going to be like a draw. See what entry you get. So I mean, I hate it, but other people they do it something like that, but that's out of my control. I mean, that's part of wrestling, But I think
that better than anybody. You're a veteran in this sport. But let me ask you though, and it wasn't really brought up in this segment today. But what do you think about the possibility of Black Flag Army members kind of squaring off with each other in the ring? I mean, do you think that that's a possibility? I mean, I just think that's fascinating because 3 of the 10, right? I mean, again, I'm not good at many things, but 3 of the 10 members are Black Flag Army members. So isn't there a good possibility that Black Flag Army members could be in the ring against each other? And what do you think happens there, my friend?
I'm excited to see that. If I could put my money on who I think would come out on top in that, that's really hard to say, because
you're not supposed to say. You have to be impartial. You're the general manager. Come on, Hillbilly Tilley. You know that.
I'm still a fan. I'm a big fan. I've always been. That's why Sky Felton has rules, and Dylan Andrews discussed on your podcast. I had to suspend him for some of his actions at this point, but I'm a hardcore wrestler myself. That's why I've been an advocate to bring the hardcore title to AWL so we could continue, so we could have more hardcore style matches, because I love that. That's my forte myself, and
we go back from the early days. You fought with golf clubs, wood. We saw you with appliances. I mean, and you did it in no ring. You were on ground. I mean, so when you did it, it was basically like, not to go on a soapbox and rant, but you literally did it when it was like, back in my day almost.
Right. I've been that's why I was going to tell, correct. Even though there's only 35,000 views and 117 videos, we've had about 30 different videos taken down. Like you pointed out, Austin or ADT was a child during that time. And once YouTube has updated their guidelines over the years, pretty much almost a significant amount of his matches were taken. That's completely off because, child, it was like violence towards children.
Although ADT to me is like almost machine. I would say at this point, ADT, he's not a child, he's not a man, he's not a boy, he's like a machine.
He's definitely a full-grown, rather big, strong man. So is Dylan Andrews. Hell, AJ Morgan, when we first started AWL, I feel like his completely the whole dynamic.
I think I've known you guys for like 8-9 months. Well, at least the product, and I think Morgan's grown the most. And I wouldn't want to meet any of these 3 guys in a back alley somewhere, because these guys, you might look at them on the screen, but imagine looking at them in real life in person. I mean, these guys would just, they would eat you alive more or less.
Oh yeah, I'll say that. From the first time I met AJ, he was very respectful, and he still is, and when he wants to be, but he's definitely grown some hair on them peaches, and I guess that's might be the influence of his brother and ADT. And they've had a lot of influence on him, but a lot of good influence. He's now he's progressed so far, and I'm proud of all of them. But
absolutely.
I'll say this,
you've done a great job. I definitely agree with you.
A guy that I'm a big fan of, and I think is, a great, fantastic wrestler. And as you saw in the last episode of AWL, if you haven't, go check it out. Travis Hunt, Christopher James.
I was waiting for you to say that. Travis Hunt. I mean, this is a guy, and he was, we heard some of the things he said after the match, and That's a guy I'd be, what he did to Christopher James, a former world champion. Travis Hunt still, you cannot count him out right now. He might be the one guy that can still go mano a mano with Morgan and ADT and the war criminal Dylan Andrews. He's on a whole nother level right now. Travis Hunt is the one guy that can maybe give them a run for their money. I don't know.
Exactly. That's why I sanctioned it. And they've already had one title match. That's why I sanctioned the second match, because I believe in a ring, create a whole nother dynamic. And Travis Hunt is on a hot streak. Christopher James ain't no slouch. I can't put it past him, but Travis Hunt, he really showed a lot, and he's progressed a lot, man. That guy, he's a killer, man. I wouldn't want to get in the ring with him. I know that.
Let me ask you a question.
And
let me ask you a question. Hold on to that. We're here with the newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, the general manager of the Alliance Wrestling League, the one and only Hillbilly Tilley. He's our first general manager to be inducted into our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. I have some comments, and I'm going to get to them in a second, but I want to ask you two-part question. First, how big is it for the company to go into a pro wrestling ring? And if you had anything that you would have wanted to have done over, would you have wanted that opportunity to be in a pro wrestling ring? What's your thoughts on that, in those two parts?
I mean, I would like to wrestle in a pro wrestling ring, but I'm still, I'm like we talked about, I'm a backyard wrestler at my core. I'm a fan of it, whether it's in a ring, on the ground, on a trampoline, wherever it may be. I just like the overall feel. The farther the term, I have a think of a quote, the farther it gets away from the backyard or the bingo hall, the less I care about.
Okay.
Anymore. I don't like I like to, do kind of the amateurism and the high spots and the fucking, the brutalness of the brawl type wrestling. And I just really enjoy it. I've always have. That's why I've always watched it. I watched it more than I watch regular wrestling.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. But let me ask you, though, for the company then, and I'd ask that as the first part of the question, how big is it for the AWL as a whole to be in a pro wrestling ring?
It's huge. I mean, 6 months ago, we just started. It's been a little more than 6 months, I think, or right at 6 months.
8 months, about 8 months. Yeah, it's about 8 months.
Right. 6 months, I think I've been here, and helping try to grow it. And I think we've grown tremendously. And a lot faster than a lot of our, I guess, other companies is in the same sport as us, and now we're already in the ring, and we're about to get our ring delivered, and we're going to have a live crowd there, and I'm expecting a very good turnout. And I'm going to be ringside of all the matches. I'm looking forward to it. Sky Felton's going to be there too, and we haven't seen him since a long time, but he's going to be front row too as well. So I'm going to have to. I'm ready for it. I'm very excited about it, and I'm telling you, you got to tune in. It's going to be a great show. Me and him both just went out of our way to make sure of it.
Well, congratulations to you and certainly Sky Felton and the rest of the locker room, regardless of, where people, were a part of things. I want to say congratulations to everybody in the Alliance Wrestling League. And let me get to some comments here. I want to say hello to my buddy, of course, Mr. Jack Delta, the one and only great Jack Delta. Another night, another Sportswire. Good evening, gentlemen. Obviously, I know you wish to still see him in Alabama. That's certainly still an open-ended question with what happens with ROW. I think it'd be a great moment to see Jack Delta in AWL. But, look, obviously, again, ROW and AWL, we know that there's obviously things we spoke about still. Also, for Mr. Black, Delta's ears must have been ringing. He's here for his attention. Step aside, little man. Tonight is about me. But Mr. Delta would also like to say, only thing you're getting tonight, CJ, is chili cheese fries. Leave me alone. So, okay, I'm going to leave the chili's cheese fries away for a few minutes. But Mr. Morgan also I see. Mr. Morgan would like to say, though, he's already beat Travis Hunt, and I think we actually have Mr. Hunt or somebody related to him that's here. Speak of the devil, and he may appear, and always dodging Travis. I think does that spell 3 acronyms a little bit? Does that spell that? Because that sounds like it could be Mr. Travis Hunt.
I didn't even know that. I don't know. It could be saying something, but I'll tell you one thing. On Saturday at AWL Gold Rush, AJ Morgan won't be able to dodge Travis Hunt, and then also being the rules of the match are going to be in there, Black Flag Army will not be allowed to interfere.
Let me ask you this question on the Black Flag Army, and I kind of touched upon it briefly, and I see that Mr. Hunt is here. Is there we haven't really seen them together much, and on top of that, we don't know what's going to happen this Saturday. Okay, could there be a possibility from your vantage point that maybe for the first time, could we see some dissension in the Black Flag Army if the night is not as successful as they would like? Certainly, we know that they've got quote unquote all the gold, but let's say they don't win. One of the three members doesn't win the Rumble. Let's say, for all intensive purposes, Morgan goes down. I mean, let's say take those two instances. Do you think that for the first time, let's say if Morgan loses, and on top of that, one of the three, whether it's ADT, Andrews, or AJ Morgan, don't win the Rumble, that maybe we would see for the first time some type of, I don't know, dissension or maybe some type of level of doubts that the Black Flag Army isn't the most dominant faction in the yard currently?
Well, I'll say this. From knowing them personally and in the backstage, they're a pretty tight-knit group.
Yep, I agree with
they're
that.
all about. I feel like if they lost, which will be, with them together, staying together, that's why I feel their alliance helps. That's going to help them keep their success. I feel like, that's why I continue. But being there be a Rumble, you never know. You might see some other wrestlers help each other against them.
But
That's
what
the
about
dynamic.
and I got to ask you also, ADT and Colbat, what about there? I mean, is there a possibility you think that there could be an upset in that match? I mean, because again, that's why I'm saying that if there's an upset here of some sort of any shape or form, the Black Flag Army haven't been touched at the moment. So I'm just wondering, what would you think about that?
Well, that's why. Same with why I sanctioned Travis Hunt and AJ Morgan for the second time. Again, ADT wanted Cobalt, and if you've seen that first match, it was a kick-ass match.
It was a
man.
banger.
Cobalt,
Yep, absolutely. It was
Cobalt's,
a banger.
actually trained wrestler as well. He ain't no slouch. ADT has the size on him and power on him, but I would not put all all the bets on ADT here. Right? And looks like AJ Morgan. He better not look past.
Hunt was impressive. He was impressive. The way he disposed of Christopher James, who was the former world champion, and we saw the way that Travis Hunt talked after the match. Sure, you could talk about the past, but the present right now and maybe the future shows that Travis Hunt has a real shot to beat AJ Morgan at Gold Rush. There is no question that Travis Hunt's got a shot in this.
Oh yes, he definitely more than a shot. If I can, AJ Morgan's attitude, he does display, he better not overlook Travis Hunt. Travis Hunt,
not after what I saw this past week. Not after what I saw. You cannot say.
Yep. I wouldn't call it upset.
Well, I got a lot of people that want to talk, so let me get to some comments here. First of all, we'd like to go from ADT. Travis beat James, something me and Morgan have already done twice. So scared, easy payday. Like we talked about, could it be that the guys are taking things maybe lightly? I don't know. Also, Ethan Soritz had asked a question about refereeing. He's only refereed 2 matches. So he's only refereed 2 matches currently. So we're going to certainly say, go watch those and pick a coin. The last 2 Alliance Wrestling League matches, those are the ones that Hillbilly Tilley, our general manager, has refereed. So you can flip a coin. Also here, how many championships have you held? He's talking about certainly Mr. Hunt, but we may say maybe that could change on Saturday. How many matches has he won? Well, you know what? He might win coming this Saturday if the way things are going. The only thing you absolute about you is the ability to choke during the big moments. Well, we'll have to see. But CJ Black would like to say, I think, something that all of us think is that I'm excited to watch Gold Rush. I agree. I need to scout because CJ Black will be down in Alabama soon. Does that mean something that we may see him back in a state he knows very well?
Like I said, I expected him down here soon, That's what we had planned. I didn't know if the plans had changed, but, he's one of those guys that's always welcome here,
And maybe Jacob Collins would be a guy that could be welcomed because he's got the CBW World Heavyweight Championship. Now, if he's back in ROEW, that would be another guy to look at. C Money, what he's done. I mean, so there's some big names in ROEW. that could be here that are still a part of the roster.
Oh yeah, they're all welcome down here as far as I'm concerned, and even Jason Storm, that the referee. We always need more than one referee. So if he
Well, I
wants
was
to
going to ask you
come
that.
back to wrestling,
That's a name we could actually ask you about because, Jason Storm was here and he honored the fact that, he's announced his retirement. We saw that his friendship with CJ Black dissolved several weeks ago, and we haven't seen Jason Storm anywhere since then. I mean, so he said a lot about you guys. He actually cost ADT that world championship several months ago. So I'm sure that Jason Storm would not get maybe the friendly, let's say, welcome mat to Alabama if he came to the AWL, even as a referee. Is that fair to say?
I mean, I would, in his best interest, I wouldn't recommend coming down here because I feel like he lucked out against ADT. I'm sure y'all know ADT's been vocal about
He
it.
hurt him. He listened. I mean, he hurt him. I mean, he went against really. He wasn't fair in that match. I mean, we spoke to him about that, and he actually didn't seem to be that remorseful about what he did in our, to you guys as a part of REW at that time. He was rather remorseful about what he did to Jacob Collins, but when it came to what happened with you guys in Alabama and in AWL with ADT and Morgan, no, he wasn't at all. He didn't seem like he was apologetic. He seemed like he, I don't know. Listen, he's retired. Obviously, he's certainly doing what's best for him and what's best for his life. But, I guess if he were to come, it could only be as a referee of some sort.
He's smart. He'll stay in retirement. And don't come to AWL looking for any trouble because, the Black Flag Army might have a little beef with him. And I'm going to take up ADT here. ADT injured himself early in that match, so he didn't get 100% ADT.
I agree with you on that. I agree. We spoke about that when ADT was here. I couldn't agree with you more.
If you do that match 10 times, I feel like 7, 8 out of 10 times, ADT wins it.
If you want to go even further, I think what true fans of the sport would say that 9 out of 10 times ADT would win.
Right. That's just me trying to show the respect to a former REW.
No. And I love Storm. Listen, I love Storm and I love ADT. I'm saying what the fans who watch both companies would say. If you were to stack up ADT and Jason Storm out of 10 times they would be in the ring, if you were to simulate that, kind of like if you were playing like 2K, for example, 9 out of 10 times on average, ADT wins that. There's just hands down. ADT's got the size, the strength. He's got the sheer physicality and everything that he's done based also with experience. ADT wins over Jason Storm 9 out of 10 times. That's what many fans would say. That's just what I'm stating from what the general consensus.
I fully agree with you. Like he got that 1 out of 10 times and from luck.
And that was really because of what he did early in the match where ADT was injured and we didn't get a full strength ADT. And I want to get to some more comments.
Retirement, take that win and let's run with it.
Well, right now we haven't seen anything from him. We had him here about, I want to say maybe 6 or 7 weeks ago, and nothing's been heard from him since. So his career seems to be over. Obviously we wish him well. Obviously he has to figure out what's best for him and his family. Does he want to come back to the ring? But he's retired. At the end of the day, he can come back, but it's not a part of ROEW. So he's not an ROEW employee, whether that would be to AWL. And I wouldn't recommend him coming to AWL because in your locker room with your pros, your veterans, the Black Flag Army, I mean, this, you've been a wrestler, you've been a talent. Your locker room could eat him alive. I mean, it's that ROEW where it's a handful of guys, your locker room's got, 10 guys and up. I mean, your locker room could eat him alive. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that would just be my advice. But, obviously we wish Mr. Storm well. He was always one of the joys to talk to on Sportswire Radio. Look at him, Tilley. They're all flustered now. Is the other member in an AA meeting? I think he's talking about the war criminal. But the war criminal to me is, quote unquote, to steal a phrase from Jason Storm's prior life and names. He's kind of the wild card team because now he's this hardcore champion, and Dylan Andrews has not been seen in several weeks wrestling. It goes back to New Year's. I mean, he might be the most dangerous of the three, I would think. No,
I believe it might be. That's why that was the big thing I discussed with Scott Felton is that I feel like his suspension, it was by Scott Felton, and I agreed with it and I honored it, but I was like, one thing we got to do is we got to have Dylan Andrews in this Rumble.
It's not a Rumble without Dylan Andrews. With his
No,
experience, obviously, we know what he's done in the military, what he's done in AWL so far. And I mean, Dylan Andrews is the definition of a Rumble. If I would have, forecast this based on, his strength, his size, and his experiences in life, and we know he just loves to go to bars randomly and just beat people up, he might very well be the odds-on favorite in this.
I mean, to say, I mean, you gotta remember that we got ADT in that Rumble as well. And that's like
but you gotta think though. There's 3 of the 10, so ultimately, somebody is, I mean, they're gonna, maybe they flip, but maybe they eliminate each other at the same time. You know what? Maybe that's what it's gonna be. If Black Flag Army members are in the ring together, maybe they just go out at once.
Well, see, Morgan is not in Rumble actually because he has a championship match.
So, but you got 2 of the 3 in there.
Right.
You still got ADT. ADT spoke about that, and Andrew spoke about that in the promo, which you can see on the Alliance Wrestling League YouTube channel. So you can see those things for yourself. And Mr. Morgan, Christopher James in there. Yes, that I did hear that. That I did hear. CJ, you're still a man of your word. You said you'd face me if you're on the same place again. Seems like you're dodging me. You think that CJ Black is dodging AJ Morgan? I mean, they are the 2 companies' world champions. I mean,
I don't, I thought ADT and Jason Storm going up there. We already knew that match was going to happen. I sent my roster up there and let the management choose. It's a working relationship. If they come down here, I'm going to make matches the same. So I was disappointed that we saw the War Criminal against I don't even what's his name. Some jobber they got. I feel like that was a waste of a War Criminal. I feel like they made the matches more so stacked against us. AJ Morgan's very inexperienced at the time, and they put him against Jack Delta, considered the most experienced backyard wrestler in the round.
I agree with you.
And he held his own.
Okay, so then, all right, let's ask a follow-up. You guys have a big roster, a bigger roster than theirs now. So let's say if they come to Alabama, would you do the same thing to them as retaliation?
Well, it depends on who comes down here. I'm more than willing to, since if they make the trip, then I'll let them, we'll discuss it. I mean, they want to face someone.
Listen, ADT was adamant he wanted Delta. I mean, and we know that situation is what it is.
I'll definitely that match myself,
I would love to see.
ROV champion versus the AWL heavyweight champion. That's a dream match for me.
I was about to say the same thing. I would love to see CJ Black and AJ Morgan in a match. I would love to see, C Money and Dylan Andrews, or C Money and Travis Hunt. I mean, how about that as a dream? Or Christopher James and C Money, or Jacob Collins if he's around still. I mean, there's guys that are a part of ROEW. I would love to see square off with some of the top talent in the Alliance Wrestling League. So, I mean, I would, hope that we would get that. But we are on Sportswire Radio for a little while longer. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, where all wrestling matters. And we have inducted officially into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame our first ever general manager, our first member of our 6th class, and the 51st member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, Mr. Hillbilly Tilley, the general manager for the Alliance Wrestling League. If you want to follow the Alliance Wrestling League, you can do that on a number of different ways. Facebook at Alliance Wrestling League, Instagram at Alliance_Wrestling_League, TikTok at Alliance Wrestling League, and Twitter at AWL_Wrestling. We'll have more coverage tomorrow night. Stay tuned for a guest to be determined later on tomorrow in the afternoon, but we do have a guest coming on, so I'm not going to spoil it for those that are listening and watching. This is kind of a special one, so you might want to tune in for that. Friday, we'll be back here at 10 o'clock right after SmackDown, giving our thoughts on the world of WWE, AEW, and more, the fallout from Sting, getting you ready for WrestleMania with a number of different guys. And Saturday, we are live with Ace Reed of the Wired Up podcast, 11 o'clock Eastern time, to take his place into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. He is the BWU champion. He is the host of the Wired Up podcast. They had a press conference just earlier this week on the BWU YouTube channel. So very excited to have Ace Reed. He has become a great host, a great interviewer. He is certainly a guy that could probably take over my reins on Sportswire Radio and do a far better job. And he's not too bad of a wrestler in the ring. He's one of the premier backyard wrestling talents in Australia, and he is certainly doing a great job there as they're getting ready to wind down their season in the BWU with the weather changing there. So we'll certainly look forward to having Ace Reed to be inducted into the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame Saturday night, 11 o'clock Eastern Time on all Sportswire Radio platforms. And if you're here on Sportswire Radio right now, check us out anytime, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year on Sportswire Radio. You have a podcast, if you want to play live music, whatever it is, let me know. We have an internet radio station for free that the community gets to use and all different types of things out there. So let us know. And also check us out on Twitch at Sportswire Radio, YouTube at Sportswire Radio 6579, Facebook at Sportswire Radio. And yep, I'm going to get to that. So Mr. Hillbilly Tilley, in the
we got to discuss some things you've been saying about my team now.
So all right, I want to talk about that. Now we know it's a big upheaval in the world of college football. We know that Saban's left Alabama. Auburn has certainly got some issues. So what can we look forward to in the state of college football in Alabama, especially with your once proud Auburn Tigers?
I'm always going to be proud of my Auburn Tigers. It's like a love for a best friend, your lifelong sports team you've been for. I bleed orange and blue, but I will agree with you that the program is not where it needs to be. And that's because I feel like the wrong people have a lot of influence over it. Auburn, the boosters have more influence over the decisions the football team makes, But I will say this, don't ever count Auburn out. They are one of the luckiest programs I've ever seen. They are. You go to Jordan-Hare Stadium at night, they can beat anybody. They have beaten anybody. Before.
Oh my God! I mean that environment there is.
In the last decade that Saban was over Alabama, Auburn is the one that beat Nick Saban the most times. We went to 2 different national titles.
So, yeah, I think you said something that's really important is that sometimes what happens, and especially in a really competitive conference like the SEC, where the boosters have too much control and too much input, and they're not letting the program and the coaches kind of let them do their jobs and recruit and bring in the players that
they don't let them run the program.
That was my point. That was exactly my point.
You think anyone told Nick Saban anything about Alabama football, or you think Nick Saban controlled Alabama football?
I think Nick Saban was basically, he said, I'm going to tell you how to do the job. I've done it before. And that's how we're going to get the program back. And in the last decade, where we've seen maybe prior to that, Auburn and Alabama were neck and neck. But in the last decade, it's really been Alabama that's been perennially at the top near the standings or winning national championships or being in the BCS. And that's kind of where Auburn's kind of struggled a little bit. It's been up and down, kind of like Texas a little bit. Texas has been very up and down the last decade. One of my buddies actually played for Texas, Roderick Walker. He was a Dallas Cowboy for a brief period, and he was a Texas Longhorn. And he says the same things all the time about Texas that happens in Auburn. So hopefully Auburn can get it going. By the way, I got to ask you, as crazy as it sounds, spring practices aren't too far away. Are you actually going to get a chance to go down there and watch ever a spring practice or anything like that? Because that's actually going to take place next month,
See, I've never actually been to a game or practice, but I've been down to Auburn and been to the stadium quite a few times. I think this last year, and went to the stadium and visited it. But that's one thing I plan to do I might decide to go to a day game one day. I have never made it down there quite. I'm more of like a Braves person. I've been to at least 100 Brave games.
Well, you got to be excited about this Braves team real quick because, the Braves pretty much, they've got this core that should be good for the next, 5, 6, 7 years, really.
Really? This is the best. Probably the best I've ever seen the Braves in my lifetime. And I've seen Chipper Jones hit a grand slam in person. And when they had Chipper, they had Mark Teixeira, had John Smoltz still, my grandmother actually was
Freddie Freeman. You had Freddie Freeman. You had
Jason Hayward, and we've had so many people. There's countless, and that's one thing I give to Atlanta. Unlike Auburn, they definitely know how to run a program.
Well, the Braves really, since I've been a sports fan, other than a few years here and there, they've been pretty much a perennial winning team. I mean, I know they've only won the 2 World Series, 95 and a few years ago, but the Braves have perennially been a playoff team. I would say that the Braves, the last 30 plus years, only the Yankees have been more successful than the Braves. I mean, they're the Yankees, but it's to me, the Yankees won the Braves too in terms of sheer postseason appearances and probably division championships. In fact, I think the Braves have actually won more division titles than the Yankees. I mean, believe it or not.
They have, but the Yankees, I mean, the Braves are
I'm a
not in
Mets
the
fan.
division
I'm a
either.
Yankees fan, so you can.
You're not a Yankee fan?
I'm a Mets fan, so.
I feel bad for you then.
Well, I said a couple of days ago on the show, every sports team I've rooted for hasn't won because I'm.
That's your Jets fan too, then, ain't you?
I'm pretty much all the losers. I'm Islanders in hockey. They've won 0. Knicks and Nets in basketball. They've won 0. Mets in baseball. You know that obviously Braves have tortured the Mets. And in football, yeah, I kind of lean for the Jets. So I mean, and that's it. There's been nothing. And in college football, we don't really have a team in New York City because there's no college football team. Although at times people will say Syracuse is our team, or Notre Dame is our team, or Rutgers is our team. But the truth is, we don't have a really sports team in the college football world. So we're kind of stuck with that. So you think hopefully Auburn will get it back together, this year and, at least be a little.
I'm not sure. Like, I'm not sure about the Hugh Freeze hiring. I don't know if you've seen recent news, but actually from our hometown where we do AWL in our high school, we went to Auburn legend and NFL player Cadillac Williams went to our school, and he just recently left Auburn and went to Oklahoma, and he was a very instrumental part in the end of the season, coached the last 2 games, and he's been a huge part of recruiting, and he's been to get to actually the locker room morale. He's the one that's actually kept it so great, and he ain't leaving Auburn because he's been, people. He don't want to be there, obviously. He didn't take no better of a job. He went to Oklahoma and became their running backs coach. So, I mean, if he's leaving there, I feel like it's because there's something behind that. He don't want to be there for a reason, and I just don't like how that didn't make me feel good about the situation. It's questionable. Hugh Freeze he's good. He's been with Auburn, but his last job is very questionable about the same thing with Hastings. His morals was a very questionable thing, and being that they're coaching young men to become men, like that's why I respected about Nick Saban so much. You sent not parents sent their kids to Nick Saban to become men, and he made them men.
Listen, Saban's one of the all-time greatest coaches, and I found it so ironic this year that Saban left, and then on top of that, you had in the NFL, Carroll and Belichick left. 3 of the most iconic coaches of our generation all left like in the same few days. But, before we get to a few other things, and obviously I know you're a busy man. I actually wanted to, because we've actually got a whole share the screen now, and I wanted to actually bring this up, because I'm sure you'd have a memory or two about this, and you might be very surprised about what I'm about to bring up. But, does this actually, let's see it come up here. There we go. Now we're actually going to bring it up here. Full screen. Did this ring a bell at all to you? You remember what this is?
Yeah, we recorded this match on a cell phone, a flip cell phone, and then we had to record it in 30-second intervals.
Really? Wow. I had a flip cell phone. You had probably like one of those like T-Mobile flip phones or something like that, right? Probably what you had.
It was like a Razor, I think.
You ever go back and watch these footages? You have a lot of footage out there from HCW. Do you go back and watch this? Because it actually there's a niche following for it. I mean, obviously before we move on to the current state of a few more things in AWL, but do you go back and ever watch this at all?
I do every now and again. This is one of my more favorite matches. Even though I didn't win this match, I felt like it. ADT really did the dynamic, it was a very believable match. I'm about to hit a very bad move that you could show that that's the risk we take. And thank God I didn't get Austin too mad. But this move right here, it's what you'll see. But he managed to kick out, and then he still won the match. And I mean, it goes to show you, because there you can clearly see I'm probably about 15 years old there, so I'm just now like in the midst of puberty or getting through puberty. But Austin there probably 9-10 years old.
What would you say to yourself now, to this yourself then? What would you give yourself any advice?
Mm, I would say, nah. I was the best. I was the best there was, best there is, best there ever will be.
Well, you won 5
sometimes
championships and you were responsible for so many people. Let me ask you though this. Did you know then that ADT could be what he is today?
I knew he could. I knew he had a drive too. I didn't imagine now how he's become a gold. I think a medalist in the U.S. powerlifting, and he's also how great he's become. I couldn't have foreseen that, but I knew he definitely had the drive. He definitely there's like since that time period that's what he's drove to be, and that's why I respect it. And I don't like it. I hate when people want to try to hate on them, but that's what I'm saying. If you ain't got haters, if you got haters, you're doing something right.
100%. And you know what? And I don't want to make this too much about that, but look, at the end of the day, I said it then when he came on the first time. He is one of the best talents, pound for pound, that I have seen in the yard or in this sport. He is somebody that I can only see going to even bigger and better places. And at the end of the day, he is somebody that you can like him or not like him, but what he goes out there in the ring, he means business, and he's pound for pound one of the most unique talents I've seen. You mentioned his amateur, weightlifting background. You talk about what he's done from a wrestling standpoint. I mean, he is a true talent, and we have some comments here. And apparently, was that an adolescent ADT? Yes, it was. I mean, it was actually. That was ADT.
A child ADT, actually.
Well, I mean, that certainly was, and I'll actually
he
play.
Still probably had a voice then with he hadn't even his voice was still very low at that point.
And
I don't even think he would probably been in puberty at that point at all.
And you have a memory of this year. You come out here, and we're not going to play too much. Favorite
match, I think, honestly, me and Brandon Bonds, he tore me up in that match. For real, he really did. But I was what you call a transitional champion, and I never won. Every time I won a title, immediately the first defense, I'd always lose it.
You were the Bret Hart of world champions. Bret Hart was the guy when he was the champion. He was never champion very long. All his runs, or a Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes was only, I think, for his 3 championship runs, only held the title for like 100 days. Bret Hart, every time he was a WWF champion at the time, never really held the title more than, I don't know, 8-9 months, and that's kind of what you were, unfortunately.
Right. I mean, most of the other people that held that title, they could have one reign, and it accumulated more days than all 4 of my reigns combined.
Well, nobody could be as bad as I think DDP and Mankind. DDP, I think, was 3 times a world champion, held the titles combined for like 40 days. And I think Mankind had talked about this with Mick Foley on one of his old podcasts. I think his 3 title runs combined were like 26 days or something like that. So,
I think mine have 4 title runs. I combined maybe right at 40.
All right. Well, you still would be better than probably DDP and probably Mankind. I'd say DDP, you're probably neck and neck. So, I mean, but, I just wanted to show it, just to show the people,
before we be compared to such greats. So Mick Foley's one of my all-time.
Well, you said it. Listen, you said that was who, you were one of the people you looked up to. You mentioned Stone Cold. You mentioned The Undertaker. You had John Cena in there. You had some really, big names there, and we're seeing, hear you do these different things. And I think it's just amazing to see what the program's done. And, and obviously, these are things that people might want to see. And it's before, obviously, we're going to go back to 8 ago. You in the Alabama Street Fighter. Think about that. That's why I want people, by the way, if you're here, hit that sub button for HCW, because there's a lot of memories, a lot of stuff that you could find as a wrestling fan and still find to be pretty cool. So make sure you check all that out more or less. And I think that's what we want to see here. And just look at all the memories. I mean, it really wasn't that long ago. Why did it look like it's 30 years ago? It really wasn't.
I can still feel the pain from that match if I watch it back.
Well, maybe I shouldn't show the match anymore then. I don't want to bring up old memories, so let's move away from that.
I had busted Clay Pierce's. I hit him with a ladder in the face and gave him about 6 stitches, and then he had hit before that. I think I was a little upset, and then when he had, if everyone always talks about his fight where he took a golf club and he just acted like he was driving it down the range right into my groin area.
Well, very interesting stuff, and I actually want to pull it up. We'll take this off the screen in the interest of time, but if you actually are on Sportswire Radio, you can actually follow some different people here from a couple different ways, and I actually want to do that right here. So we're going to pull it up. I don't know why we just froze. There we go. There we go. Oh, no. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's the interest of technology. We're going to pull this up right here because I don't think I'm going to be able to pull it up. Maybe we actually could. Okay, there we go. So if you actually want to follow Hillbilly Tilley, you can actually do it right here in a couple of different ways. You can do that here, first of all, on Instagram. We actually got Instagram right pulled up here. There you go. Look at this, the beauty of technology here. You got Hillbilly Tilley on Instagram, and you got some great people. There's Travis Hunt. Hey, I think I know who Travis Hunt is. He's here with us right now. So you have some great people here. You got a number of different things you can see that Hillbilly Tilley's in action. Make sure you follow him. Also, HCW, check them out as well. They're on Instagram. So if you just want to follow, just do all those great things and support. So obviously, wanted to pull that up to show for the audience. But in the interest of time, obviously, it has been an absolute honor to have you. Is there any other things that you want to talk about in terms of the current or future of the Alliance Wrestling League that we should know about tonight?
As you see, I've grown the roster, and I've definitely went out. I've made it a point. That's why I said to begin with the first time I was on your show.
And you've grown facial hair since the last time I saw you. You look so different, you know. Now, I tell you what you got to do. You got to get some referees in here. You know, I spoke with ADT a couple weeks ago. We were talking about this referee situation. So, you know, what do you have to say on that?
I just hired one. He will his first matches will be Gold Rush. I have a few I've employed for them then, but I have employed one entirely to be our referee for coming future, and I'm going to try to get some alternates that to help us too as well. But that problem should be fixed now.
Oh, good. I'm happy about that. And you can confirm though that Jason Storm is not one of the referees you've hired.
No, but I mean, I give him a job, you know, if he ever wants one. I told him.
I don't know if I'd want that job if I'm Jason Storm right now, because if CJ Black's coming here somehow, then you've got the Black Flag Army. I would certainly want to say that you've got the knives out if you're Jason Storm. We love Jason Storm, but I don't think he's going to be loved too much in Alabama. So we'll have to see. And if you want to follow the Alliance Wrestling League, you can do that on all those great platforms here. All right, before
he needs to not come to AWL to be a wrestler.
Well, he's retired, and apparently we have no idea what his future is, so we'll have to wind up seeing. But, let me ask you this before we get to closing thoughts. Is there anything else that you'd like to see the AWL do, whether it's, let's say, goals you have, or, obviously the Pro Wrestling League rings coming up. We have Gold Rush itself. I know we have more live shows. We have this Hardcore Championship. Is there any, goals that you have for the company as general manager that you'd like to see maybe fulfilled going forward?
Like I said, I want us to continue to grow our own original homegrown talent, and I feel like we've done that so far and gotten really good talents. I want to continue to see. I want to get AWL as big as a 30-man roster. I want us to. We're going to get our ring soon. I want us to continue doing live events if we can help it continue. And that's like if I have the ability, I want to no longer be on a mat after these events, and also want to have a live audience at every event we can have one.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we get to closing thoughts, if you guys have a live show and you guys are charging for tickets, what I want to do is the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, as your voice of all wrestling matters. If you charge anybody $5, $10, I will buy one ticket to that show. And the reason I want to buy the one ticket is if there's somebody out there that's a wrestling fan and doesn't have the opportunity to afford to go to one of your shows and they would like to go, I will personally donate one ticket to somebody out there that can go and see your guys out there and compete. The reason why I want to do that, and the reason why I do that with other companies, is because if there's one person that we can make a wrestling fan, and we always talk about all wrestling that matters here on Sportswire Radio, that's going to go a long way into seeing future Hillbilly, future CJ Black, future Jack Delpy, future AJ Morgan, future Travis Hunt, future anybody else out there. So if that time comes, you have my full support. You have my endorsement. That endorsement's been earned. I think the company's done a lot of great things. I'm happy to work with you guys anytime, and I really look forward to what you guys have to offer. And 30 people might make your job really tough. I don't know if you want to go to 30 right away. Maybe go to like 15, go to 20. I always say like go in 5. You're at like 10 or 11 right now. Let's go 15,
All over
20.
that flag, man. They give me shit all the time, man.
I know that. That I know.
I feel like I'm trying to wrangle cattle and with this roster at some time, man. And I'm guess golly, and it's tough at times. You know, I'll tell you that.
Well, you know what? There's a line that they use in politics. They say sometimes with the job you have is hurting cats. Kind of hurting cats. That's what you're doing there. So, great stuff there. But when it's hello, congratulations to you. So definitely want to thank you very much. So obviously, it's been an absolute honor, Cam. I'm so honored to be our first general manager, our first member of our 6th class Sportswire Radio. So I want to give you the floor now. Anything else you want to share and say? The floor is yours. I see congratulations on everything you've done for the sport, being a true backyard wrestler. Did it for the love of the sport, but also everything you've done for the Alliance putting it to where it is. We're going to turn it over to you. And anything else you want to plug, share, say?
I'm going to keep it short. I do. I'm not going to break the fourth wall very much, but I'm going to speak out of character. Even though I play a big role in this show, obviously as a GM, I play a secondary role more so to all the talents, to Travis Hunt, to the Black Flag Army, ADT, Dylan Andrews, AJ Morgan, Christopher James,
Seth Maverick,
Tyson Gates. Everybody, if I'm forgetting anyone twisted, everyone. Cobalt 2, Victor Thorne's going to be in the Rumble. Forgotten, I'm not going to forget. Oh, Big Vic, because that's what the locker room likes to call him. But yeah, they're the ones that make this product. The guys they're the ones that put their bodies on the line. I'm just all I am is the guy that's in charge of them, and making sure they get. I'm making sure we get matches that's really good. So if they're the guys that everybody should. I just play a small role. That's all I play. I've been given an opportunity to be here, and I'm thankful for the opportunity. But if it wasn't for them, my job would not even be a job. It wouldn't, if that makes sense. And everyone that puts their, and ROEW, even though I talked a little grab, I think I'm glad to see. I'm just happy that I feel like I might have played a role in this, at some small role in this happening. If any of the AWL, of the ROEW coming back, and I'm anyone also. There's people I would like to, show respect to. IMF, they're one of my companies. I feel like they're doing a lot for the sport. Them guys are always welcome if they want to come try open the invitation.
Well, I'd love to see that. We'd love to see those guys coming out. That'd be great.
Oh yeah, my DMs are always open. I'm not. Well, we can always try to work something out and see if we can set up any matches. I'm all willing to work with each other, and that's why I love where backyard wrestling has come. But stay tuned, AWL, because our goal is to revolutionize the concept of what backyard wrestling is. We're going to change the game, and I feel like we are in the process of already doing that. And tune in this Saturday to AWL Gold Rush. You won't want to miss it. If you do, you'll be missing out on, I would say, foreseeably, so far, the biggest backyard wrestling event of 2024 so far.
You know what? I think you got a great point on that. And I really want to see what the future of the Alliance is offering. I've really enjoyed the product, and I believe you guys.
One last thing, TBW.
Oh, yeah, you
I
can.
like them all right, man. I like them all right.
Just all right. Okay with that.
I can't be a big fan of them, since it's the contradiction in the locker room. I have to stick to my guys, I don't have an opinion on who's right, who's wrong in any situation. All I know is like, I always stick with, my wrestlers and my show, and I back them up 100%. So If they have problems, then I'm on their side about it. But I do respect what they've done for backyard wrestling in a way. You know, they've brought a lot of eyes and attention to it, and they work really hard on their product. So I give them that and on their respect.
Well, you know what? It's all about all wrestling matters. At the end of the day, I respect your honesty. I respect where TW's coming from. You're coming from. IMF coming from. ROW's coming from. BW's coming from. LBYW, UCE, and all the other companies out there. And XCW as well. One of my favorite. Never forget about XCW. Just, everybody that's out there. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are, when you are. BWU, I can't be you. I BWU in Australia. Everybody out there. Wrestling Network want to give them a shout out. Everybody right reason, like you said it. True backyard wrestling is those that show the love of the sport. AWL's doing it that way. IMF doing it that way. XCW doing it that way. IMF is doing it that way. ROW doing it that way. BW doing it that way. BW doing it that way. WWF's doing it that way. RUW doing it that way. RWA, the list goes on and on and on. Ladies and gentlemen,
You're a big part of it too as well. You've done a lot for the sport. You've done a lot of stuff for the sport.
I appreciate that. PBW is also a huge part of MEBW, all the BBW, OMW, all those companies out there that have been a part of all wrestling matters. Thank you. Most importantly, before we sign off, thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done, being a true backyard wrestler. That's why you earned this spot. You deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. You said you didn't. You deserve it because of everything you started nearly 13 years ago. We wouldn't be here without you, and that's why I was so proud to have you here. To have the first member of our Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame. Tigers, yes, absolutely, and I frankly congratulations. Can't wait for Gold Rush. We're going to definitely see you soon, and I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for being a part of all wrestling that matters. And on to Gold Rush, and we'll see you. Congratulations.
I appreciate you, Tom. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the honor. I really appreciate it.
You got it. Ladies and gentlemen, our newest member of the Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, General Manager, the Alliance Wrestling League, our 51st member, first member of the sixth class, is Hillbilly. Tilley, the General Manager of the Alliance Wrestling League. My name is the Reverend Tom Rice, your voice for wrestling, or well wrestling matters. You're on Sportswire Radio, going back to regular programming. You're on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. We're now going back to tomorrow at some point. Stay tuned for that. Until then, good morning, good afternoon. Wherever you are, Global Radio, Sportswire Radio, all wrestling matters, don't hit that sub button, Alliance Wrestling League, Gold Rush this Saturday, be there or be square, I know where I'm going to be, so if you're in Alabama, hit that sub button, go and watch it, once for the ages, AWL is going to change the game of backyard wrestling as we know it. Thank you, everybody, and good night.